Always.
Marina, you good?
Yeah.
Stay ready,
good.
so I ain't got to get ready.
3,
I'm out of liquor, though.
2,
Fine. I'm fine.
1. Welcome to the Culturally Distinct Podcast. This is your boy, DJ KO.
K-Jack is in the building.
And I'd like to welcome you guys back to the show. Last week was a pretty good week. This week was a pretty good week. Cinco de Mayo caught up with me on this weekend. I was kind of, well, it was Mother's Day also last weekend, right?
To get you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did good, brother.
I had enough, adult beverages.
You were out there. It didn't catch you for 3 days. You was in that thing.
Then Mother's Day, I was working so hard. I was
What'd you
slaving
do for
in the
Mother's
kitchen.
Day?
I cooked all day.
You didn't even wish me a happy Mother's Day.
I did?
You did not.
Happy Mother's Day. I'm sorry.
It's
Happy belated.
It's a
So-
belated happy, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. So anyway, guys,
Fine. I know it's your heart.
for all the
I'ma charge
mothers
your
out
mind,
there,
not your heart.
I want to wish you guys happy Mother's Day. I'm sorry I'm late, but don't charge it to my head. How I say it? Don't charge it to my head,
just
charge it to
told
my
you,
heart.
I charged your head, not
Oh,
your
okay,
heart.
one of them.
They
Anyway,
the same.
anyway, today we have a special guest in the building today. This young lady, she's a HBCU graduate. She's a attorney here in the Houston area. She's a California native. Everybody, welcome to the show, Miss Marina Banks.
I was about to do my own clap, but y'all got clap.
Oh, yeah.
Over here.
How you doing today, Marina?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
I appreciate you for coming.
Yeah, I always love, when I can come somewhere to share education, share
Yes.
knowledge, help our people.
So, Marina, tell the people who is Marina Banks.
Yes, so I am a licensed attorney in the Houston area. I practice business law, so that covers making sure that small businesses and entrepreneurs have legally sound foundations by filing LLCs, nonprofit corporations, making sure that their contracts are going to protect them. And so reviewing contracts that may be entering, drafting contracts to use for their business. And, like such as this, like podcasts are such a huge thing right now, making sure that you have like media agreements to use, like who's going to own the rights to whatever the finished product is, right? Can I utilize it? Could I possibly sell it if, you brought me on your show? And then also making sure that I can protect what people are building through trademarks and copyrights.
So I'm glad you're here because I'm gonna pick your brain. I'm gonna give you, hope you don't invoice me a retainer after the show. You know what I'm saying?
Here, get your call.
But
Because he going to try.
so I wanted before we even get into all the other stuff for us with the legal jargon, legal terminologies. How did you what was your passion behind it? Like why did you go to school? Because most people most people that's 18 years old go to college. They don't have a major unless they say, I'm gonna be a nurse, I'm gonna be a doctor, engineer.
Yeah, so actually I was told from a young age, like, you're going to be an attorney, and I tried to steer away from it. But while I was in undergrad at the illustrious Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Shout out Dillard.
Illustrious. Come on.
I interned at the New Orleans Public Defender's Office for 5 months, and I thought that I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney. And it was actually so emotionally draining for me to be in New Orleans and see black males shackled by chains in orange jumpsuits every single day. And I was like, there has to be a better way, for us to live life, for us to make a living, because the reality is that once you get incarcerated, it's very hard to get a profitable job. So you end up finding yourself committing illegal acts in order to have money to make a living.
Right.
My whole goal then became, how can I help people before they get to this point? Because what I saw was that people who were 18, 19 years old already had a rap sheet by the time they were coming before a judge for that charge. And so my focus became more so based on how can I help people find a better way to live. When I got to Houston, I originally started out as an assistant city attorney for the city of Houston doing contracts. And I realized that in interacting with the contracts that came through, there weren't a lot of minority businesses, and Councilman Edward Pollard, he's on council right now. His biggest thing has been trying to get more minority contractors contracts with the city. COVID hit, and we saw a rise in people who look like you and I starting businesses. And so I really use that as an opportunity to try to just educate. Here's how to do it the legal way, right? Here's how to start your business. It ended up being that a lot of people really enjoyed getting this information. And so, I really started to grow my business to the point where I'm able to now do it full time, where I'm able to educate through social media. What does it mean to have a business? How do you file? How to protect yourself. And then I also get to help entrepreneurs, which is the fun part, because people come to me with the exciting stuff like, I'm ready to start a new venture,
Right.
rather than I've gotten into trouble and now I need help.
Right.
So that's how I got into it, and that is why I'm still doing it, because I love it so much.
So being from California, right, from LA area, Pasadena area, how did you choose Dillard out of all those places? You got Stanford, you got UCLA, USC, no
That's
HBCUs
south.
on the
You
West
came
Coast.
South, like
All the way south. Okay, so y'all don't judge me, but
No
like,
judgment.
so when I was in high school, I really liked the movie ATL. And, you know,
Okay.
Nunu was gonna go to Spelman, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to
Nunu,
Spelman
hey.
and be like Nunu.
you telling your age, but okay.
It was like why they call her Nunu? Because she had
the
the new. Hey,
Lord have
Yeah.
mercy.
So I did a program at Spelman, and I was like, you know what? I like the HBCU field, but Spelman is not for me. And so there is a HBCU expo that travels across the United States. When they came to Los Angeles, I went, and there are HBCUs who let you apply on the spot. You don't pay the application fees, SAT fees, or anything like that. And I got accepted to Dillard. Got accepted to a few other HBCUs, but I ultimately just like prayed on it, and God like sent me to Dillard, and I loved it. Like I wouldn't be, here where I am now if it
it's
wasn't for
dope.
Dillard.
You came.
It
you
chose
left.
you.
Yeah, you left New Orleans and came to Houston. So I don't want to ask you your age, but what era were you in? Like what in the 90s, 2000s?
Oh, okay. So I'm 27. It's okay. I'm a
Oh, you
90s
young.
baby.
You young. Okay, I was going to say some
baby.
juvenile lyrics, but you don't know about that.
She's a baby.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Copyright, patent, and trademark. The difference between the three.
They're the same thing.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
That's the misconception, though. Everyone
Right.
thinks they're the same thing. And so they come to me and they're like, hey, I need to get my logo patented. And I'm like, let's use this as a teaching moment. I
Right.
don't mind teaching, right?
Okay.
So these are all different forms of intellectual property. Their whole goal is to protect what it is that you're growing, what it is that you're building.
Okay.
So I'll start with copyright. I like to say copyright starts with a C. C is used for creating, creation, creatives. It's going to protect your creative nature, right? So any scripts that you may use for a play or a movie, the actual movie itself, song lyrics, right? Someone has to write the lyrics, and then the actual song production when it has all the music to it, things like that. Beats, you can protect beats.
Okay.
Things like this, like a podcast, this is actual creative, production. You can copyright the actual audio that we're creating. So copyright is used to protect the creative nature of something.
Okay.
A trademark is going to be used to protect your brand. The most common things that you will trademark is a business name, a business logo, and a business slogan. So we're looking at protecting how people relate what it is they see to the actual product we offer. So we look at Nike, right? Like I have a pair of Nikes on. We see a check mark on the side of a shoe. We're like, that's
Just
a pair of
do it.
Nikes.
That's a Nike, right?
So then just do it. That's their slogan. They've protected their slogan. They protected their logo, which is the swoosh sign, and they protected their business name, which is Nike.
Well, they have a couple trademarks though.
Yeah, they
Each
also
athlete-
trademark their product, their actual product. So Air Force Ones, trademark. Air Max,
Right.
trademark, right? So you can also trademark your product names.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Because when you have campaigns, you have different athletes that have different campaigns, and they have a slogan behind it. So those slogans are trademarked.
Probably so. I know for sure the three I named are, but I know that like MAC Makeup, when they do different lines, they've done the Aaliyah line, Selena line, they trademark those lines.
So like, what's the girl? Cardi B. She trademarked occur or whatever with
Oh.
Pepsi. So you can like trademark phrases.
What is it?
You can trademark phrases.
Yeah,
The
that occur, whatever thing. Like, so to trademark that or to get a copyright. And what was the other one you said?
Patent.
Patent.
Well, I know what a patent is. But so like what does that do? What does that mean? No one can use it. No one can reprint it. What does that mean?
That's a great question because that's another misconception, right? How exactly does it protect me? So when you have a trademark, it means that no one else in the 50 states in the United States of America can utilize this name, this logo, this phrase, whatever it is you're trademarking for the same or similar services or products that you offer.
Okay.
Going back to the Nike example, I could use the word Nike to sell tires, right? People don't know Nike for selling tires. They know them for selling, sportswear, tennis shoes, clothing.
Right.
So it's really an exclusive right, not a broad right. So
you could do a Nike tire. There's really nothing they
Right.
can do.
But it can't be associated with tennis shoes, though.
right.
You could
so
put the swoosh on the tire.
correct. So when
But you
you
could call it a Nike.
when you
Okay.
trademark, you have to select categories as to what you want the trademark to apply to. So
I got you.
if
I
Nike
got you.
decide to come out with a tire line, they have to go to the category for that. Their main categories are what we've already discussed, which are sportswear, clothing, things like that.
Shoes, hats, all that stuff.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because all right, so because you have vocabulary in every, they have over 246 different types of languages, right? And you have different words in each language. So I was trying to say, how can you protect a word when it's going to be used universal?
So we can use the example of Dove, right? We know Dove soap.
Okay.
Well, there's also a brand called Dove chocolate. They both have Dove trademark, but they're in two completely different categories.
So it's a category.
I got you. One is in the
The
candy,
genre
one is
is
in
the
soap.
category. Okay.
Yeah, one's for
Okay.
food, the other is for like, what they call cosmetic
Right.
uses.
Right.
So that's like Johnson and Johnson. No, but so Johnson and Johnson, they specialize in a lot of things.
They
Like-
have to trademark for every single class and category that they have.
Okay,
products
I
in.
got you. So you can use the same name, but you have to do it for each category. So let's go back to this. You heard you named the term that a lot of people been hearing in these couple of past years: intellectual property. What is intellectual property?
It's a fancy word for a trademark, a patent, or a copyright. There's like all these big words. Like, what does all this mean?
It looks good on paper.
Right.
So intellectual property is, what is what you're trying to protect. So your intellectual property could be your brand name. It could be your logo. It could be your beat. It's a form of property. It's not like a solid piece of property like land or something. So it's intellectual property because it's not necessarily tangible, right?
Okay.
But it's still property that belongs to someone. Someone created it. Someone owns it.
So how can that be proven? Like when you say property, okay, if I say
And
property, the term property, the first thing I'm gonna think about is land, physical land,
Something you can touch.
something tangible, something
Like she
tangible
said,
you can
tangible.
touch. But when you think about intellectual, the first thing you think about is something that's intangible, something that comes on in your mind, right?
So as the children say, respect my top. You're going to put some respect on my thoughts. You're going to put some respect on my creativity. It's
Right.
basically what it is.
So how? I'm still trying to figure out, because not just me, but the people that's listening. How can you protect something that you just think about? Like I can have a thought or a dream, and
So we can't necessarily protect ideas, right? So when
Okay.
you go to file a copyright application, you have
Okay.
to you have to submit the proof. So if I have clients, we're submitting a book to be copyrighted, we actually have to send in the book. You can't just say, I'm protecting the idea to create this book with this name.
I got
Same
you.
with when, and I have to also they have to say, did they actually create this? Did someone else help them, right? So when we're working on copywriting an actual like a video or something, anyone who helped with editing,
You have to give
sound,
them
lighting,
credit.
you have to give them credit, right? They're part of it. That comes up on the copyright application.
Right.
Did you do all these items or did someone else help you? When you go to file your trademark application, you have to submit proof how you're actually using it. And then you have to attest that you are the true owner of this, because it's against federal law to try to trademark something you don't actually own.
Okay.
But so I have a question. So when we talk about that and what I do in moonlighting in other areas. So like if you go to someone to get a cake made, cookies or whatever, how they'll say it's trademark infringement, like they won't use the Tiffany colors or that, like Disney. We have certain places when you go, like say to Sam's or Walmart or whatever to get a cake made, they'll say they can only do certain things because of the copyright. Like how do you, or if a person is a baker or a creative or artist or whatever, what is the law that's being broken if someone recreates a picture for someone or creates a cake based on Tiana, the Disney character? Like how does that cross over? What does that come in?
We talked about trademark being applied to these certain classes or categories. Copyright, on the other hand, protects you just generally. No one else can use what I have copyrighted for profit, for profitable use.
For profit, okay.
So if they're selling you cookies and they're then putting it, the Tiffany logos on there or whatever have you,
They're
or
making profit off
they're
of
making
my
profit.
Okay.
I got you. So
Got it.
so if you see, I'm not throwing shade at nobody, but so like you have these design cake makers, and they gotta say Hennessy, the Hennessy bottles on top. Is that copyright infringement?
Well, they haven't recreated anything. They're using the real product.
So if they make a Hennessy bottle out of like
A cake.
fondant or out of cake, and it's just in the shape of a Hennessy bottle.
Well, that goes back to copywriting. So you creative things is what you can copyright.
Okay.
A bottle of Hennessy is not anything creative. If we want to then talk about maybe they copyrighted the design label or something,
Right.
then we would need to search copyright records or see if it's actually copyrighted. But the actual bottle itself is not
Because
copyrighted.
anybody can use that shape of bottle and put whatever label
But when you're
on it.
talking about a photo of like Princess Tiana or something, those are things that Disney has probably, because Disney protect everything.
Right.
Right.
They probably copyrighted that.
So what is the process of me going through the process? If I wanted to get something trademarked, what do? I don't even know where to go. Websites.
Child. So
Come to Miss Banks.
so I'll say this, you want to do research, right? Before you even talk to someone, because you want to try to understand what it is you're getting yourself into. You want to make sure that you're being charged a reasonable rate.
Okay.
You want to make sure that whoever you're utilizing for your services is reputable. So I would say, start with, I have no problem with starting with Google for research, for basic
Right.
research. But when you go as far as for a trademark, at least trying to file it yourself, it's like going to court to represent yourself against a prosecutor,
Right.
right?
It's hard.
The trademark office, they have attorneys reviewing your trademark application.
Okay.
So think
Yeah.
about it that way. Would you go to court and represent yourself against the prosecutor? On the other hand, as far as we're talking about LLCs or corporations,
I'm going there next.
if people are short on money, because a lot of my clients are going to be small businesses and entrepreneurs, and we're trying to prioritize what legal needs, are going to be top priority. I will tell them up front, if we need to trademark into the LLC and they really can't afford it, file the LLC yourself. The
Okay.
LLC application is very straightforward. Here are the main roles that you'll need to assign. Hire me for the trademark. Because
Okay.
ultimately that needs to be performed by an attorney, because you're going against another attorney when you submit it.
Because the LLC is just identifying the name, correct? It's making
The
sure
name,
the
who
name,
owns the
who owns
company.
it, that type of thing. And so I just did one for state of Texas. And so, it limited at least to the state of Texas. And so if it crossed over, someone already had that name, it was like, it kept sending me back, no, this is taken, until we got to one where it wasn't. It's like, okay, this one is free and clear for that. But that's just an LLC, and that's just local to Texas. So is there a separate application or something that needs to be done differently for nationwide?
If you want to protect that business name. So you're absolutely right in the example you gave, right?
So it's only protected in Texas.
It's only protected in Texas.
Okay.
If, I file a trademark, not a trademark, I'm sorry. I file a LLC in the state of Texas, no one else in the state of Texas can file a company with that same name. However, that doesn't protect you nationwide.
Right.
That's what a trademark does. A trademark says, hey, no one else in the rest of the 50 states, can utilize this name for a business. Now, what people don't know is that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when you file an LLC with your state, though, your state is only checking state records. They're not checking trademark records. It has happened before where people have filed LLCs in their state, and that name was actually trademarked by somebody else in a different state. The state's only checking their state records.
So then what happens if it's already taken? You can't trademark it, so you're limited to just being in your state at that point.
And you hope that whoever has trademarked that name, one, that they're using it for a different class or category, so it won't affect you. But if you are using it for like the same type of sale, they can send you a cease and desist letter or possibly do trademark infringement suit.
So the person who gets to the trademark first wins, basically.
Okay, so because trademark is a national thing.
Right.
LLC is. So I didn't know that, because I had an LLC like 20 years, but I had it in Louisiana. But when I moved to Texas, I didn't realize that I've been using that LLC forever, but I didn't know. I thought that carried over, but it doesn't. Oh, you told me something, so I need to apply in Texas. Hey, with the same name.
So that's another thing, is that
If
the
you
law
can.
says,
If you can.
Right.
if the name is still available.
If it's available.
But what the law says is that you need to register in every state that you intend to conduct business in. The cool thing about Texas and Louisiana is they both allow for conversion of LLCs.
Okay.
So you have two options. You can either file as a foreign entity in the state of Texas and still have your main LLC in the state of Louisiana, or you can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in Texas full time. I'm going to convert my Louisiana LLC to a Texas LLC, and that way you can hold on to that length of time, that 20-year time period. Hold on to the business credit life history you've built up,
and all that stuff,
and you're just transferring it over to the other state.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Not all states allow it, but Texas and Louisiana do.
Because they're reciprocal.
Reciprocity. Right. It's some reciprocity. So that's good.
So let's talk about this. LLC versus S-Corp. A lot of my friends that have a lot of money, they have S-Corps.
Okay.
What is an S-Corp?
That's what I'm. So they have S-Corp. So
you're bringing up so many great points. So I love that you said an LLC versus an S-Corp. LLC versus S-Corp, right? Mm-hmm. A misconception is that an S-Corporation is a different form of a business structure, and it's not. S-Corporation is actually a way that you can tax your entity. You can have a corporation that's taxed as an S-Corp, or you can have an LLC that's taxed as an S-Corp. S-Corp is abbreviation or short for a small corporation, and it's the way that your entity is taxed. I can have an LLC that's taxed as a small corporation as long as there are 2 or more managing members over the LLC.
To have an S-Corp.
Mm-hmm. To be taxed as an S-Corp.
Okay.
And what it allows for is it allows for a certain amount of tax benefits, which I won't get into those because it borders the accountant attorney line.
Right.
But I will say this: one, it's important to know that you have to have 2 or more members in order to qualify for S-Corp tax status. And the second is that most CPAs really don't recommend that you try to apply for S-Corporation tax status until your business can pay you a salary of $40,000 a year or more, and then still have money for your business.
For one person or both? Both entities that you...
For both.
Both, okay.
Yeah.
Collectively, so like 80,000.
Collectively.
Oh, collectively. Yeah. Okay.
So it's more of a... And let me ask you this, because I always thought that S-Corp is more of a protected entity. Say, for instance, I have a corporation, I have 10 employees, right? Or 10 members that's part of this S-Corp. If we go, say, bankrupt or something happens, I can get rid of a member of that entity and still have that same S-Corp versus an LLC. If I go bankrupt, I got to bankrupt that whole LLC. Is that correct, or is that... you see what I'm saying? So if we had...
I've never heard of it. I'll say that. What it is you're explaining. I've never heard of it. Maybe, I just haven't come to that point in my career yet where I've had experience it, but I've never heard of that, because when we're talking about as a collective, if the company or the corporation bankrupts, that's something that has to be voted on by whether it's
members.
All the members.
That's right.
And for a corporation, all the shareholders and directors. So I'm not understanding how, maybe it's, like I said, maybe I haven't come to it, but just if I'm looking just at what the law says,
right,
it doesn't necessarily add up to me.
So I was looking at it because the S-Corp, you got to have, in order to be successful.
S-Corp is a form of the way that your entity is taxed, not necessarily the structure of it.
So it's the tax.
Okay, it's tax purposes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, cool. Next question. I got so many of them, right? So many of them. DBA versus LLC versus EIN.
Okay. So let's kind of just define what everything is. Right?
DBA first.
So DBA, you probably hear it a lot, right? Usually it's like, oh, my cousin has a DBA, so I'm going to get a DBA. Mm-hmm. You have no idea what it is. DBA stands for doing business as.
Okay.
I like to say it's just like putting on a name tag to let the state or the county know, hey, I'm going to use this name to do business, right? Like when I'm doing business, I'm going to put on this name tag.
I work for so-and-so.
But it's not a business structure. It's literally just a name. It's just a name. I'm just using this name to do business. An LLC is a business structure that is registered with the state that comes with liability protection for its owners, right? Tax benefits when you go to submit your taxes. It comes with benefits of being a business structure. A DBA is not that.
Okay.
An EIN stands for Employer Identification Number. This is applied for with the IRS, the Internal Revenue Services, and I like to think of it as your business's social security number. You'll use it when you open up a business bank account, take out a business line of credit, apply for a business loan, things like that, do your taxes. It is required to open up your business bank account. So people will file the LLC and they're like, I'm done, I filed the LLC. No. Next step is to get the EIN because you need to open up a bank account for your business. You need to separate your personal and your business finances in order to obtain that liability protection that's offered to the owners.
And to get loans.
To get loans as well.
And line of credit.
And the line of credit, right. So you guys are on it, right? Like y'all could have I could have just sat back, right?
They don't believe us.
I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing, okay? I had to bring that professional on, okay?
I know even less, so
that's the main difference. Misconception is that if you have a DBA, your name is protected. And I hope that one thing you guys have taken away is that you need a trademark to protect your name. A DBA won't do it.
Okay.
Even like in your state, the LLC will at least protect you in your state. A DBA doesn't even do that.
Right. It's just a name.
It's just a name.
Underneath your LLC.
It can be underneath your LLC, or you can own it yourself as an individual.
Right.
So what's the purpose of a DBA?
to let the state know that you're using this name to conduct business.
But as this.
I'm looking at it from, all right, so if I have, say, culturally distinct LLC, right? And underneath it, I'm operating microphone 123 DBA, right? Say if microphone 123 goes out of business, will that affect culturally distinct, right?
Well, you just told me that you have a DBA for microphone 123. That's not a business. So
Just
what's
a
going
name.
on?
It's just a name, okay.
Yeah, it's just a name.
So I'm saying, what's the purpose of a DBA then?
So the whole purpose of a DBA is because states found that people were kind of just using these fictitious names and conducting business, and then it would go away. And the person who was like now out of money or looking for the company or entity who helped them, there's no history. So states then said, okay, if you're going to use a name to do business, you need to at least let us know so that if something like that happens, we at least know who that name was connected to.
I got you.
And if you have to go after them legally, we can at least connect the dots as to who had that name.
I got you. Okay, cool. Another question. I got so many of them. Brand versus business. Because a lot of people say their business is their brand, but that's not necessarily true.
No.
So what's the definition of a brand and the definition of a business?
Yeah, so a business is the actual structure that's registered with the state, right? Am I LLC? Am I a corporation? When we think about going back to the Nike example, Nike Incorporated, like I like to use this. That's the actual building with the CEOs and the people who are brainstorming about all these ideas. That's the business. The brand is the story that they're telling. Just do it, right? We see the Colin Kaepernick face with the black and white and the story behind it. The brand is the story that you're selling to your consumers to get them to buy your product.
Tool. It's your marketing.
So
Branding
that's
is
your
marketing.
brand. It's how people are relating what your business is selling. Your business is selling something, right? It's the actual legal structure.
Can you LLC your brand?
You can trademark your brand name, your logo, your slogan.
But you can't
Colors.
LLC your brand, just your business.
So I'll use this example. Nabisco, for example, right? Nabisco is a company that sells crackers, cookies. We know Oreos, right? I think Chips Ahoy may be by Nabisco as well. Oreos and Nabisco are not companies. Those are arms of their brand.
Okay.
But the company, the business is Nabisco. The brand that they have, part of that would be the Oreos, the Chips Ahoy, things like that.
Okay, that makes sense. So infringement. The first time I heard this term, I was looking at American Gangster, right? And Denzel Washington told the guy, he said, the guy was telling him, he said, copyright infringement. I don't like these words, Frank, because he was copying his brand, but he was adding something to the brand to make it his. What is that called?
So infringement, I guess I'll start with the definition of infringement. Okay. Infringement is when you are imposing on someone's rights, right? So you'll hear the term, you're infringing on my rights, you're trademark infringement. If you are guilty of trademark infringement, you are imposing on someone's right that they hold, right? You're taking advantage of it. You're using it in a way that you shouldn't be using it. When you talk about copyright infringement or trademark infringement, that means that I have protected something, right? Or I have maybe built a brand around something, and you're now trying to capitalize off of what I've built. And so what you're talking about is like, I think this guy was like trying to like spin off of whatever the drugs he was selling or something like that.
It was blue magic, but he made it red magic. He just added something to it to make it red. It's the same thing.
Because the whole point is that when I hear that magic related to it and it's the same product, I may not remember which color it was that they said was the good stuff. Was it blue? Was it red?
Right.
And now you're able to capitalize off of the brand that I have built because the names are so similar.
Right.
So how do you protect that?
The trademark. So trademark doesn't just protect the exact spelling of the name. It protects anything that's similar to it. So say that, Beyonce, that's trademark, that name. And I was like, well, I want to sing, right?
Oh, the name Beyonce is trademark?
It's trademark.
So what about all the people who name their children Beyonce?
They don't have a trademark and they're not capitalizing off of it for singing purpose.
Yeah, they're not trying to get money off.
Yeah, so she has a trademark, I think, for like entertainment services or something like that. And I was like, you know what? My stage name is going to be Fiance, and I'm going to go and I'm going to trademark it, right? And I'm not going to spell it like Beyonce. I'm going to spell it like, someone who has a ring on the finger like Fiance, but I'm going to do it for entertainment services, the same thing she does.
That's possible, right?
No. Trademark office is going to say, no, that's too closely related to Beyonce for the same
wow.
services. You're trying to capitalize off of what she has. She's
Really?
built the brand
it's the
around the
same
name
category.
Beyonce.
Because of the way it sounds.
But even if you
Entertainment
say
services.
fiance and you spell it like fiance actually with
And
the
that's
ring.
going to be my singing name. That sounds too close
Oh, because
to
you're
Beyonce.
singing, it's entertainment. So it's the same category.
So I got a story about copyright infringement. The first time I shot the podcast, right? I put it up. I had music behind it, right? Not knowing. So during the time when the pandemic first hit, and everybody was DJing and with other people's music, and then everybody started getting paused or stopped by Facebook or Instagram. So I was like, okay, I understand that because they're using the actual songs, but one of the podcasts I had like 15 seconds of a Drake song, right? It was at the very beginning of the podcast, and I shot the podcast, so I had to put it up on YouTube and everything. Maybe about 48 hours later, I got a letter from Universal Music, cease and desist. I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Please take this video down, or our law team will contact you for lawsuits for X, Y, and Z." And they showed the amount of music that I placed for that. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" That's why I learned about copyright. I was like, "Wow, this is a real thing."
Oh, and that's why when people make videos on social media, they have to put the tag, "I do not own the rights to this."
Not even
music."
that. I think
I'm just saying, but I think that's where it came about with Facebook.
Yeah.
I started noticing people doing that.
I think they gotta own the music. That even doesn't help. You gotta own the music.
And
Even though you
that's
put that in
yeah.
there, you gotta own the music.
Well, they leave the videos up
So
on social media when
and I'll
people
give
put that.
this example, right? So my Instagram page is, with Instagram, you can have a personal page. You can deem it to be a business page.
Right.
I have a business page. What I realized is that when I switched to the business page, those cute little music sounds you can put behind like your stories,
Right.
all that's gone for like mainstream music. I have like random like Uncle Bob music on there that I get to
Right.
choose from. Like I've never heard of anything on there, but that's the whole reason, right? If you're a business, you're utilizing Instagram, you're utilizing your platform for profit. So
Yes.
that means you can't be using these sounds for profit. So they just took them off of business pages for Instagram. So they don't even
And
look
so
like
they
we're
have
not
a whole
going to
legal
entertain
team
that.
sitting somewhere figuring that
Oh, yeah,
out to
absolutely.
protect themselves.
I think this pandemic helped a lot of people out learn the law. Some stuff with the law. Let me ask you this: what's the limit per person for as LLCs? Is it unlimited or
Yeah, it's
is
unlimited.
it okay? Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was like 10 per entity or whatnot. When I say entity, a person,
Oh, no. There's no limit on how many LLCs you can have or companies you can own.
but it's a certain amount that you could go bankrupt. No, not
What do
really.
you- no, as long as you do
Not
everything
really.
that you need to do
That's
to
right.
uphold. A lot of celebrities have like
A million of
tons.
them.
And that's what I was about to say. If the category changes,
Donald Trump.
or the area or the genre, like you say, the category they're entertaining under, or whatever, you have to have a different one for all of those. I'm
For
saying.
trademarks,
so for
yes.
for trademarks, but not LLC.
No.
Okay.
But, as an attorney, for people who are going to be like I'm going to do hair, I'm going
Everything.
to do a catering business, and I'm going to have a lip gloss line all under one LLC. My main concern is that now your liability is all mixed.
Under one. Okay.
So you can absolutely do as much as you want with the LLC because in your operating agreement, which you should have, it should say,
Let's talk
you can
about that.
utilize it for
Yeah,
let's talk
every
about that.
legal purpose. But now your liability is all mixed together. So if the catering business, God forbid, 5 people get sick, they're like, you need to pay our hospital expenses because
They're
we
gonna
got
come
sick.
after all 3
They're going to come
businesses.
after the business itself and everything it owns. Your business owns 3 different types of.
So they get lip gloss money, they get
Get
hair
everything.
money, all of that.
So operating agreement, what is that?
So an operating agreement is basically the rules and regulations for your LLC. For corporations, we pretty much heard of like bylaws for a corporation. This is the equivalent for LLC. It's called an operating agreement. It's going to outline who owns it. It's going to outline, do you have investors? It's going to outline the most important thing, which is called indemnification, and that's the liability protection that your LLC offers its owners. And what I found is that for people who utilize like LegalZoom or some of these other companies,
They don't offer it.
they do offer it, but it's very straightforward. And so I actually had a conflict with someone who they filed through LegalZoom, right? They utilized this contract. When I went to go look at it, they're trying to say, we want to use the operating agreement to protect ourselves. It didn't go into detail as far as the liability protection that it offered. So now we just have to go off of what state law says because your operating agreement didn't really offer you any protection. State law offers the bare minimum. Yes, it says, you're protected, but only in a certain capacities, which means, and I'll give this example, if your actions are found to be negligent, which means that, you know, you should have known that you shouldn't have been doing this, but you still chose to do it.
So it's like negligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then you don't have liability protection. Well, you could put in your operating agreement that even negligent acts are covered through the liability protection that the LLC offers.
And an operating agreement is needed whether it's one person or 5 people.
Correct.
Regardless, you need an operating
Correct.
agreement. Okay.
So now when you file a LLC, that's a separate part.
Mm-hmm. So the operating agreement is not filed anywhere. It's actually kept for your own records, for your own keeping. Texas is not one of the states that requires it, but there are quite a few states in the United States that it says in their law it's mandatory that you have an operating agreement for your company.
So if Marina was to open a business today, right? Say you had T-shirts, black V-neck T-shirts, right? What process? Start from the beginning to the end.
Well, the law says if I'm going to profit, right, that I need to notify the state. More so because the state wants their share, their cut, or whatever it is you're making. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to file the T-shirt business for Freshest Tees in the Game, LLC, in the state of Texas, right? And then one thing that I might do is I have these nice logos, these nice sayings that I put on my shirts. I may go ahead and trademark those different sayings that I put on my shirts.
Okay.
In order to protect it. You know, then but that's something I will do. But I'll say after I file the LLC, the next step is to get my EIN with the IRS.
All right.
After I get the EIN, I get an operating agreement. I sign the operating agreement. Next step is I make an appointment with my bank to open up a business bank account. You'll find that some banks will actually ask you, do you have an operating agreement, or they want to see what the operating agreement says to make sure that you've been granted the permission or you're someone who has authority to open up the business bank account. And then when I'm entering into any contracts with vendors, you know, say I, want to purchase like 500 T-shirts up front, and then I want to continue to do business with this person where they send me another 500 black V-necks in various sizes every other month for 2 years. So we're going to enter into a contract.
Okay.
My contract needs to state, Freshest Tees in the Game, LLC, and not Marina, right?
Right.
I need to make sure that my LLC is the party entering into the contract. Another way that small businesses get mixed up, they put their name. You don't do that because that looks like that you're doing the business instead of your LLC. Then when I go to sign the bottom of the contract, I'm going to sign Marina, CEO, Freshest Tees in the Game, LLC.
I got you.
I need to let the other party know what my relation is to the LLC instead of just signing it on my own behalf.
You forgot one thing. After you do all that, you forgot one thing. You got to apply for that PPP.
Stop it. So... what is, and the other part that a lot of people don't realize and can get discouraging is the financial cost. What is the range, if there's a range, of
finances
for LLC, DBA? EIN is free, but the trademark, copyright, all of that. What is the financial
So when we're looking
obligation?
at LLC, we're looking at the state. What does the state charge for the filing fee? Every state has a different cost. In Texas, it's $300.
Yeah.
We go over to Louisiana, it's $100. We go to California, it's $75. So each state has a different filing fee. Now, if you just worry about the filing fee if you're going to do it yourself. If you're going to hire someone, you can shop around for pricing. And I literally go to Google, right? So sometimes I have people who are just like, well, I can find this cheaper. I can go here. I'll send them a screenshot of Google. What is the average price that I will pay for this service?
What would be the benefit of if you could go online and do it yourself for $300, why would a person need to seek out a Marina to do that?
One, because they don't necessarily understand what it is that they're doing, right? I may know, I could just put a name and an address here, but I don't know what each of these roles means, legally speaking. I don't know that I need an operating agreement afterwards. You'll be surprised at the amount of people who pay me just to explain what LegalZoom did for them.
Wow.
I literally just have people book meetings with me to explain what these documents are that LegalZoom gave them because they're starting to get to a point where they're like, okay, well, I have these papers, but someone's asking for this, and I don't even know if I have it.
Is there a certain amount of money, or is there a certain amount the business is worth that should require certain things? So if it's just a little startup business, can they do it on their own? But if it's a business that's starting and they have $1 million in assets, or what, is there a certain range that will require a person to seek you out versus doing it on their own? Is it just understanding? What do you recommend?
For LLCs, I honestly recommend getting an attorney to help you. If your concern is finances, right? For me, I know that that's a concern, so I even created a how-to guide so that my clients who can't necessarily afford my services to file the LLC could at least purchase the how-to guide for $50. Like, that's
I
it.
got you.
But the whole goal is that I want you to understand what you're doing. And that's why it's really recommended that you seek a professional, because even though the application, like I could fill out an application, it's easy, I may not necessarily understand the implications that come with that. I don't necessarily understand what offices it's going to and what I may need to do afterwards. Whereas when you seek out a professional, they can explain those things to you.
Right. I got you. So let me ask you this, your last question. Inspirations. You're a smart woman, and you're very knowledgeable. What inspires you?
Honestly, one is going to be God. Like I told you about, like,
devotion,
my alarm. Like, no, that's, like, really it.
James 1?
James 1, that was in my bio.
Right.
Yes. If you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. But, like, I can honestly set goals for myself when I pray and when I can just take time to meditate. Whatever that goal is will multiply beyond what I ever even imagined it would do.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to go to college. I never imagined that I would get invited to the White House to get honored as being a top HBCU student.
Oh, dope.
I knew that I wanted to help people, but I never imagined that I was going to start my own firm and be successful and do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
So my point in saying that is not to be cocky or in any sort of way, but to really help you understand that any goal that I have set, it has far exceeded any expectation that I could have possibly put on it, simply because my faith in God. And I think that is my biggest inspiration for my success and where my success comes from. I think that also, being able to be surrounded by other women, and it's not even personally, it's really through social media, but seeing other women being able to run successful law firms and making it on their own, being moms, being wives and business owners is, like, truly inspiring. And it really makes me be like, okay, I can do this, right? Like, some days where I'm, like, so overwhelmed or so swamped. Like, you texted me yesterday about some stuff. I was like, I'm so sorry. I got it for you right here, though. But, like, being able to then see them leave their job, right, their business, and then go to gymnastics practice with their child, like, I'm like, okay, look, I don't have kids yet, but if they can do it and have kids, then I know that I can get up and do whatever I need to do right now.
Yeah. 'Cause that's been, like, last couple of weeks, well, I'll say a month. Like, I've done manifestations before in the past, written things down, put them in my Bible. And so here a couple of months ago, I did the same thing. Well, I went to put the new list in the Bible and the old one was there. And when I opened it up, I was like, oh, my God. Like, everything had been met. Like, just it was done. And so I put the new list in, and I was telling Michelle, I was like, I think I'm about to go pull my list out because all this stuff is coming at me, and I'm like, how am I going to do it? And I was like, you know what? I asked for it, so, we just going to get it done. But it gets overwhelming. It gets frightening a little bit, It's like, I ain't mean for it all to come at one time. I should have put a time frame on it. It's a short-term, long-term goal, but yeah.
So when I was in my last year of law school, I started writing out. It was the beginning of the year. I still had to graduate. I still had to take the bar exam. But what I was writing out was that I was praying that God was going to allow me to pass the bar exam and be specific with your ask. July 2020. Not just any bar exam.
You cannot give God a multiple choice question.
I'm passing July 2020. I'm getting offered a job at the City of Houston Legal Department, right? And I'm going to graduate law school on time. So by the time I had, finished law school, I'm like, okay, doing the bar exam. I'm writing this out constantly through bar prep. After I took the bar exam, my prayer then became, thank you, Lord, for allowing me to pass. Now, it takes 3 months to find out results. Right. But my prayer for those whole 3 months was, thank you. I'm thanking you already for what I know you're going to bless me with.
In advance, right?
Right.
And then I was thanking him for this job that I had not been offered. And during bar prep, he kept telling me, like, don't apply for jobs because I had no job. Like, I'm studying for the bar exam. I have no job after this. And he told me, wait until after you finish the bar exam. So I'm like, okay. And I'll admit, I was a little impatient. I was trying to apply during the study, and he was like, no. I walked out of the bar exam the last day, and I had a text message on my phone waiting for me saying, hey, we have this job that we want you to apply for. The exact job that I was writing out that I was going to get. And he told me, wait till after the bar exam, and I was trying to be impatient. I walked out on the last day, and there was a text on my phone telling me to apply for a position
that you wanted.
That's how it happens. So the thing is, I didn't want to get spiritual and everything. My preaching was going to come out.
Oh, Lord.
But to what you were saying earlier, seek ye first, and you know the rest, right? The kingdom of God and everything else should be added to you. And then another thing is favor isn't fair. A lot of people receive it. They don't even know why they receive it. That's 2. And 3, when you require something, right, you become responsible for your ask. Right. So the thing is, you're not just gonna receive, you're gonna get an abundance of that. And the thing is, can you handle it? Mm-hmm. So because you asked for it, at that moment, can you handle it? So a lot of us don't see the future of what we ask. We just see that little small, but I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this, Marina. Where can the people find you? If they want any some advice, some law help, your office, anything, where can they find you? Handles?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as the Legal Queen.
Okay.
And then, that's the main thing. If you go to my website, it's thelegalqueen.law. That's pretty much what I go by. It's really easy, short for people to remember. That's where you can find me. I post a lot of informative content, which you probably have seen through my Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's not just about, hey, these are the services I offer, but you know what? Here's some information to help you, because I may offer a service that you don't even know you need, or you may be doing something in the wrong way that you can simply improve on and didn't even know that you needed to improve on it. So my goal through social media is to constantly post informative content, which you'll see through my pages.
That's dope. And I appreciate you coming on. Everybody out there, if you guys have any, I'm pretty sure after this, a lot of people are going to come to you.
The Legal Queen trademarked.
It is pending trademark right now.
I'm gonna take that trademark. I'm going to
the queen. You want to be the queen?
The Legal Queen. It's a guy. Nah.
I'm just not shocked by that at all.
Nah, but I appreciate you, Marina, for coming on. Guys, I thank you guys for coming on the show, keeping out the gems that Marina gave us. Make sure you reach out to her so she can help us out, not just as individuals, but as a people, so we could better ourselves. Right. Guys, this is the Culturally Distinct Podcast. This is your boy, DJ KO.
K-Jack is in the building.
See you guys later. I love you guys. Peace.